So the first guest or speaker joining us is rather a visionary entrepreneur, ladies and gentlemen. He is the co-founder and CEO. Thanks, Papa. He's the co-founder and CEO of CG Technology Group. He has developed 2 enterprise software applications. It's OK, a mental health app which is designed for learners. And of course, Be Frank, which is a platform to improve employee health and to further enhance business performance. Please give a warm round of applause to Cody Gordon. Did you spot Cody from outside? What's with this screaming? Very familiar screaming this. All right, my next speaker joining us on stage is an advocate for diversity, and she's made her mark globally. She was telling me that she just landed from Paris this morning. Her diverse portfolio includes her legal background, international modeling career, her work as an activist, listed as BBC's top 100 inspirational women across the globe. She's also a cultural leader at the World Economic Forum. Please give a warm round of applause to Ms. Thando Hopa. Thank you, Ms. Thando Hopa. Also joining us, of course, is one lady who is a master when it comes to all things marketing, all things PR, all things making things look and sound good. Please give a warm round of applause to the Chief Marketing Officer at TimeBag, Ms. Linda Appy. Thank you, Linda. Last but not least, she's a model. She's an actress. She's a humanitarian. She's a brand ambassador. And a brand ambassador, Twitter. Yeah, not just the Twitter brands. I'm talking about several iconic global brands. Also a high-level influencer for the United Nations Refugee Agency. A warm round of applause, Ms. Nomza Mombata. Or should we want to say, Bayete? Thank you so much. I give you a warm welcome. Thank you so much, panelists. I will be standing and I'll try and give my body language to you as I give my body language to my audience and my tech guy, my guru, if you don't mind, so that I don't bend over so many times, just to paghamisa microphone as I don't have a handheld. So I'll just lift it a bit so I don't have to bend over. But thank you so much once again. Nomzamo, Linda, thank you, Thando, Cody. A pleasure having all of you right here on our panel. We're talking all things mental health. And I mean, it may look beautiful and glossy from the outside, but there's a whole lot that goes on in the inside. Each and every day of our lives as young people when we try and foster our dreams. And I suppose, let me start with you, Cody, because when you established, your brands as well as the apps which address mental health, surely there was data that you found that said there's a gap and there's a need to have this accessible to society.
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, thank you to everyone for having me here. What an awesome event. Well done to Motsepe Foundation. And I think, one thing that we all experience as people is our own mental health, our own journey, everything that we go through. So when we started building out our technologies, our apps, of course we knew that there was a space, there was a platform, a need for this technology starting from a young age. But more importantly, I suppose, than the data was my own personal journey that actually led me and led our team to building out our technologies. And I suppose I'll open up a little because I think everyone here has experienced their own bit of trauma, their own bit of mental health struggles that have ultimately led us to where we are today and where we keep going. So my own sort of success, or whatever you want to call it, came from my greatest trauma. It was when I was at my lowest low. And it was, when I was in my matric year, so a few years back, maybe similar age to a few people over here. And, my dad, just before my finals, within a week of being diagnosed of cancer, very suddenly passed away. And, that was an extreme event in my life. And basically, as the weeks progressed, as the months progressed from that event, I could see that I was no longer myself. I was no longer Cody Gordon. I could see I was acting out emotionally, I was acting out verbally, acting out physically, and I could see my life taking a turn for the worse. I could see I was my anger, I was my depression, I was my rage. And I realized that if I don't take control of my life right now, my life's not going to turn and go in the direction that I wanted to. So I said, I've got a decision over here. Either I can revert into the victim mentality and blame the world for what's happened to me, as we all can do, or I can take personal responsibility and see, how do I improve my life from this point on? What can I do to improve? So, to cut a long story short, I said, I don't know where to start. I wasn't taught these lessons or learnt about these tools in school. And, it wasn't a focus for me, as perhaps most people here, and perhaps my panelists as well, growing up, mental health wasn't a focus. And I started studying the most successful people on earth, from career to business, relationships, sports, all different areas. And I thought maybe these high achievers have something to teach me. Maybe they can help me. And what I found is they all had a daily focus on mental health, well-being. And, that allowed me to start visualizing and connecting my positive thoughts to positive emotions, behaviors, quality of life, meditating. So really from my own personal experience and, understanding that these tools exist. And when you focus on them, there's an increased quality of life. That's really what led us to building our technology.
And I think if there's one topic that we can all relate to, whether we hide it well or show it on our sleeves, it's mental health. It has a way of catching up. And it's quite insightful that you had a wake-up call. You knew that you had to make a decision, take some agency and take back your life. But Thando, it's not always easy, right? Thando, when it comes to taking back, your power, when it comes to your mental health, why is it so important to be an activist when it comes to mental health, and make sure you speak up when it comes to issues around mental health issues?
Dumelang Sanbonani. So when I entered the modeling or the media fraternity, I don't think that I had an understanding of exactly how many identities that I carried would actually be under attack. And by that I mean moving in as an African black woman with albinism, you are experiencing issues of racialized discrimination based on your color, based on your race, looking at issues of sexism, ableism, etc. And I think, moving into the space, you almost have to find ways to stay in a space that is hostile towards your existence. Because the more you stay in that kind of space, the more you find time to have more critical mass, so people who have bodies like you can actually also exist in that space. And, one of the things is, as I said, it's just finding tools of resilience. And mine, and I was actually saying this to Nomza, that you find ways to bring yourself back to yourself, because when I talk about institutionalized racism, guys, it happens in contracts, in meetings, it's constant. And when it's happening to you, sexism, all of that, it's a visceral experience. It's something where your body is literally telling you you are under attack. And when you're speaking about trauma is always taking you back to the past. What happened, what should have happened, what could have happened. It's a rewounding, constantly taking you back to the past. Or you're having anxiety, which makes you worry about the future. So literally, it's bringing yourself back to the present on the constant, reminding your body that it is still here and it's still fighting whatever it is fighting, but it's still here. So I think just moving into the space, personally, I'm not an activist for mental health. That's not particularly my focus. Mine was on diversity, inclusion, and equity, but I honestly think that we need to be building spaces that are safe. We need to have community within each other, because I went through most of my things having tribe, having community, because I think we co-regulate each other's emotions. I don't think we're supposed to carry the most difficult emotions in our lives by ourselves. I think that we need to have tribe and community so that we are able to get perspective over our lives and that we are able to gain more resilience.
Absolutely. And Thando, I think also for young people, we need to deconstruct the word activism so it's not intimidating. It can almost mean Sarafina, freedom in the forefront. Activism means your immediate circle. If you're a big sister, talk to your little sisters. You can talk to me. If you are in, a community, advocate for it, talk about it, normalize it so that it's not a myth. They often say also check on your strong friends.
Yes.
If you are always the strong one, the one that's making people laugh, tell them, guys, when I'm not okay, tap me. Say to me, when we're in spaces with you, you're the life of the party. That's activism, where you are. But also, Linda, your job is also quite tricky. You are the Chief Marketing Officer at Time Bank. You make things look pretty. And sometimes not everything is pretty. And we know that even with the likes of social media and curation, we're living in an era of curation. How important is it that even though we strive and aspire for pretty things, that we still have our mental health and well-being in check?
Yeah, I think it's super important, and it's amazing that we're having such a discussion today, because I think it's yes, there's awareness being raised about it, but I don't think we tell the vulnerable stories often enough. And with mental health, sometimes people don't understand until they go through the thing that you've gone through. Yeah. So back to Time Bank and social media. It's actually quite interesting that you chose that team, because that is the team that I do worry about the most when it comes to marketing, because they're front-facing. So yes, they're managing communities, they're doing organic posts and all of that. But whenever there's issues, especially with a bank like ours that doesn't have branches, that's the team that gets the complaints, the attacks, the swear words, all of that. So it is important for them to be able to look after their mental health. So luckily within Time Bank, we do have specific resources and tools that are available for them. But I think getting it back onto a more personal level in terms of how to be able to be resilient with mental health issues, I think it's very important to speak up, right? I loved what you said about being the strong one. I think for a lot of us in our families, especially if you're the firstborn or if you're a boy, there's certain expectations around you in terms of you should be there for your brothers, your sisters, and the rest of the family. And also what you said about community, Thando, is also important. Community in terms of family community, that foundation. It being a safe haven that you can go back to. But also it's very important to think critically about the type of company that you keep, because not everyone who's your friend is for you. And you should always be asking yourself after certain experiences with certain people, how do they make me feel? Or what am I giving into this relationship and what are they giving back? And it's the same in the workplace as well, because you do need that support, colleagues that you can talk to, or even managers that you can ask to mentor or coach you as well.
As you're speaking, you remind me that we really are African, because it takes a village, right? A community to raise a child, whether it's in your workspace, whether it's at home, in your circle. Let's check on each other. Let's be accountable for one another, is what I'm hearing from you, Linda. But Nomzamo, you epitomize what I think even Coach Rulani earlier on touched on. To whom much is given, much is required. There's sometimes, if not often, so much unrealistic expectations placed on a human being, and there's only so much you can do, right? Take us through how you build or cultivate a mindset of endurance, self-motivation, when the world expects much from you, when the world goes to you to fly the flag, but also who does Nomzamo then go to?
Right.
Because you're expected to be this light.
Sure. That's a tough question. Hello, everybody. Sanbanan. Honestly, for me, it's been an incredible journey of self-discovery. I do a lot of self-checks. You say that there's so much responsibility that comes with, the position that society puts me there. I always remind myself is that you are not the person that built that podium. That is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is who you know yourself to be. Your responsibility is your own vision board, not anybody else's vision board. Another thing also that I feel that I always want to speak about when it comes to mental health, I don't know if it's Jay-Z, but I'm going to give Jay-Z today. You can't heal what you don't reveal. Find the language for the emotions. Find the language for the thoughts and the very persistent, anxious feelings that you continue to feel. If you do not reveal that, you will suffer in silence. And I'm very, very fortunate in the fact that I'm surrounded by family. And I'm surrounded by my friends who I've known since I was a child. People who are there to remind me, who are there to hold my hand and feel it, and who call me Uzamo. And that's when I know I'm still here. For as long as the people who have been here with me before the fame, before the social responsibility, before these grand dreams that I have pursued for myself, those are the people that remind me. And that's when I have my feet on the ground. So many people think that, I walk around and people bother me. I'm like, you will pass me. Because every single day that I'm not required to be on the stage, I am myself. So that every single day I continue to still like what I do. Because if I don't like it, there's no point in being in it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, round of applause, please. I'm about to ask my second round of questions, but please, for all those social media questions, I'll be reading them in just a moment, so keep them coming. I'll be checking up on them, but in the meantime, Cody, let me ask you this before I get into Slido. What are some of the warning signs or even red flags for burnout? Do you think, when is enough enough?
Sure, absolutely. I think, burnout is such a prevalent topic these days, obviously after COVID as well, from an employee perspective, a personal perspective. I think burnout is something that, from at least a personal perspective, self-awareness is absolutely critical to that. I think any topic that we speak about in relation to mental health, to our well-being, all those types of things, it always starts with awareness. So any bit of advice or conversations that I have in relation to improving your mental health, whether that's around burnout, whether that is around a physical thing, whatever it is, the first step is self-awareness. And that's why one of my go-to tools around awareness and self-awareness is meditation. Because in the world we live in, we're having these chats about social media and influencers and all these types of things. Everything that we do and we perceive is outside of us. The real focus when we become mentally healthy happens within us. And meditation is one of those tools for the first time in a long time where you actually get to look within. You get to say, what is Cody like? What is Cody experiencing? What am I going through? Is this right in my body? I get to think through all of these different issues that I may be experiencing in a work context, a personal context. And from there I can then decide, okay, this is what's happening. But the next step is where it becomes very important, because we all, as people, our whole experience is what do we think about certain events. And if we now choose to perceive this event as something positive, as something negative, something that we can grow through, then that changes how we frame the situation. And we can then move beyond that in a positive way. So, in relation to burnout, there's many different ways in which you can pick that up in a company context, just in relation to how people speak in meetings. I've got so much to do, it's just a job, I'm drowning. Those are early signs of burnout. The earlier you can uncover that as an individual and monitor your own burnout levels, it has a major impact in what you do moving forward. So I think, be aware of the conversations happening around you. Be aware of your self-talk. How are you speaking to yourself? Because if you can flip any situation that you experience into a positive one, into something that works for you, you experience less burnout because you are experiencing more positivity. The same event's happening, but you're perceiving it in a positive light. So, if anyone is feeling burnt out or, a lot of anxiety, depression, etc., first step is start with your self-talk. How are you speaking to yourself? How are you framing events that are happening to you? Once you become aware of that, start flipping it to more of the positive side. And if you can pick up every time, what you're saying to yourself, you're already far ahead of the game. Because too often we go through life in an unconscious manner, just walking through the world, never actually looking within. But if we can start there, we can improve ourselves and everyone around us.
That self-care is so important because, absolutely. That self-care is so important, Cody, because we live in a world that glamorizes being overly busy, right? And sometimes because of our economic circumstances, we have to have multiple streams of income. So in the morning, I'm doing this. In the afternoon, you're doing that. On social media, why you're doing this. But there is burnout, and it's important to check in on yourself if you're still okay. All right, team, please, if you may assist me bringing back those social media questions. I just want to involve everyone else that's been working overtime to make sure we get these questions in. Slido, if you're in, let me ask this one to you, Thando, if I may. What are the unforeseen downsides of success, do you think, Thando? Are there any downsides? We often glamorize success, look down on failure, but are there any downsides to success?
I don't know if I can say there's a downside. It depends how you're defining your success.
Yeah.
But I think, people can look at something. You can look at Unomzamo and be like, ooh, wow, she's got this or she's got that. Or you can even criticize her that she's got this and she's got that. But the work that it takes to be Unomzamo, are you willing to carry that responsibility, that weight, You look at somebody who has a PhD and you're like, oh, no, that person's got a PhD and it's all so nice. But it requires for you to cultivate a great deal of work for you to be there and for you to stay there. And, I was just thinking that when I started out in my modeling career, things were somewhat softer. But the more upward mobility you have, indeed, I guess you're more successful, but the more hostile your circumstances can also be. And I think it's just, again, it kind of goes back. I remember when this wonderful thing happened in my life. I became the first woman who has albinism on a Vogue cover. And people were like, aren't you happy? Aren't you happy? Aren't you happy? And initially, I was like, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. Thank you. I said, I'm happy. I'm happy. But there's something Unomzamo said about language and learning how to translate yourself. I was not happy. I felt relief because I had so much tension, working in spaces, constantly having to prove yourself. And this was the thing now that actually it was like, this is one thing I no longer have to prove. And I felt like the dying of tension, which is relief. So I started learning also to find the language for what it was that I was going through, learning how to translate myself. And I think also, sometimes if things are, in terms of success, if things are becoming a bit too intense, you feel the weight of things because I don't know how to explain it. It's like it's larger. The higher you go, when the battles that you lose, they land so impactfully on your body.
100%.
And I think I'm going to finish now. I think one of those things is to try and remind yourself of the temporariness of things.
100%.
Contextualize, constantly remind yourself of the temporariness of things. And even though those battles land in you and they feel so big and they feel so impossible to get through, believe in the power of not yet.
Yes.
Say, you know what, I have lost this battle, I have not won it for now, or I did not win this battle yet. Remind yourself of the temporariness of things.
Can I pick up on that?
Yeah, and that's going to be, as you pick up, because we've run out of time, I'm so sorry, I've just gotten word that we have to close. Your closing comments, Namo?
It's so powerful because I feel like we live in an age where we hyper-visualize success, hyper-visualize the wins. No one says, I fail 25 times. I don't know how many times I've lost auditions. I don't know how many times I've gotten so close where the producers of Marvel are now, it's between me and another Oscar-winning actress. Is it going to be my yes? And you always think you're just close. And it could have been one more thing that I could have given up on. But every single time I get that sucker punch and I fall down, I dust my knees and I say, I'm going to get back up again. So do not take the winds of social media, do not take the billboards that you see of us and think that that's it. That's what the journey looks like. Everybody wants to look great on social media and in media and say, we have gained this. No one wants to come out and say, I have failed 25,000 times. This is the number one time that I get to get up and I win. And it's a domino effect. So continue to see, not to look at the wall, but look at the bricks. So one brick at a time. Every time somebody's like, congrats, Nomzamo, I'm like, it's just another brick. It's just another brick. And I'm just a brick layer.
Thank you so much. Nomzamo, Linda, Tando, Cody, thank you so much. That's all the time I had with you. Thank you. A round of applause to our panelists.
Thank you. Thank you.